Okay. I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting for the Board of Sylvania Township Trustees on December 20th at 7 p.m.
Call the roll. Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mr. Haddad?
Here.
Mr. Genowine?
Here.
Simple, here.
Rise for the pledge. Rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The approval of the December 6th regular meeting. Does anyone have any?
I haven't been able to pull them up, so I don't
Mr. Mahoney?
see anything.
Yeah, I reviewed it before I came. I'm ready to move.
Okay, it looked fine.
Yeah, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Who was it? And Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. Additions or deletions to the agenda? Does anyone have anything?
I wanted to bring up something about, let me see, which was I just had a meeting for the other day. I'll remember when I get to put under administrator. There's stuff that I was at that I wanted to bring up.
Hearing of the public?
There's nothing on the agenda here.
Okay.
Under police, that's what it was in. Okay.
It's not on the agenda, but so we could either hear it at the beginning or the end, but we'll just call up Mr. Wysong. He wanted to speak on the 10 Mile Creek.
Yes.
If you'd step up and give your name and address.
Up here.
It doesn't, you got a voice, we can hear you.
That's fine. Ken Weiss, I'm actually the mayor of the village of Metamora.
Okay.
And I came here to talk about the 10 Mile Creek. Well, seriously, because of the recent flood we had, 3-4 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever, everybody knows about it. And through some contacts and calling, I spoke to Mr. Haddad last week, and he informed me that there was a trustee meeting tonight that I should come and start here. I've lived there quite a few years, and we've had flooding before, but nothing this severe that's backed up that bad. And I actually live on the 10 Mile at the east end of town. And I actually had a resident call me up, 2 days after the flood had happened, whatever. She's complaining, concerned, because she's been here 30 plus years and never had that much water. I said, there was a lot of water that came down, and then the ground was so much saturated. But I did some, other talking with other residents and stuff like that. And I just found it kind of unusual, because as much rain as we had, we never had that severe of a flood break the banks in the village of Metamora before. And that's been cleaned out 20, 30 years ago, and they stoned, a lot of the banks and stuff like that. And so talking, I don't know what has changed in the last few years, because even the Jamie Park 3-4 years ago, when they had to delay that, it was never that bad. And that was a lot of water, and they had to delay the Highland Meadows, that was a lot of water.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what's changed. If there's a blockage somewhere in the 10 miles of Sylvania Township, if it's farther down in the city of Sylvania, if it's farther east in Lucas. But then I was looking that, there's some residents also concerned along Brent Road between Centennial and King, that where the 10 mile goes north up into Sylvania Township there by the Highland Meadows. They were concerned, I guess we get some subdivision thing, and that's not there yet, but that was flooded really bad also. And the water just stayed there for a long time, and it's never been, as far as I know, that severe. And that's the reason I'm coming in to see. I don't know what discussions you guys have had in the township. I don't know if it needs to be cleaned out, if there's a log jam somewhere. And I know there's been a lot of building, and the water has to go someplace. And we keep compressing that, and bottlenecking it, it just backs up and into the village of Metamora and Berkey and so on. And this thing took a long time for that to go down, because I watched Northview. I drive in and out of town every day, and Northview wasn't quite up as high as we were. And then once we kind of went down, then they went up and it stayed that way, because her road was closed off for a while there, and things like that, because everything got pushed back. So that's the reason I'm here. Really is on behalf of the residents of the village of Metamora had called the concern, and I figured the problem probably is somewhere here going east, because there really isn't anything else besides just farm fields once you get, to Hillburn and that area. So
Well, I appreciate you coming, and certainly cooperation is going to be the key to solving this issue. Now, I've heard rumors, I mean, we cleared our 10 Mile Creek out 4 years ago, so I don't think we have too big of obstructions there, but they can always come back pretty quickly. I heard rumors, though, that west of us also cleared out the 10 Mile ditch. Did you guys do anything, or do you know if Fulton or Lucas County have done anything that would have,
I don't know about Lucas or, Richfield, Township, or Berkey. I don't believe that they have. I mean, I lived out there my whole life, and then moved into Matamora, 8, 9 years ago. I mean, I'm from that area, but, it was in the 90s when that was cleared out. Why? Because again, they put, concrete blocks and rocks, to help with the erosion.
Yeah.
I mean, we hadn't really had a problem of it, caving in or anything like that, or narrowing down. And again, but this last rain, I mean, it was very severe, that as high as it came up into my yard, because I sit way up on the hill, and it's looking like, I've never seen the water come up that high, even before they cleaned it. Before they cleaned it, you could tell because it had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But somewhere there's definitely a bottleneck of some sort. And again, I haven't walked it, I haven't done that since I was a kid, and I'm not gonna go do it now right away, but, because once it got past, ours went down, then Sylvania was flooded for a while because, out of the river or whatever. I mean, I don't know where it is. And again, I'm just trying to start somewhere so that I can get back to, people of Metamora. Not that way. Where do we go? I mean, I don't know what, again, cleaning out, if there's something.
I'm going to ask a dumb question. Do you keep records, or do you have to file a permit to tile a farm field? Because as I travel throughout the country, I see more, not country, but the rural areas in this area, more and more of the farm fields are getting tiled. So whatever water used to lay out there is now getting into these ditches and creeks, and ultimately the 10 Mile Creek and the Ottawa River, much faster. So I know with that and the development taking up what used to be floodplains, it is a concern, but I think our area is pretty well cleaned out. Greg, you had something?
John, I think you were referring to Fulton County, cleaned out a lot of their ditches.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Fulton County engineers did not inform Lucas County engineers. They didn't even know that.
Yeah, but I talked to Richfield, and they already cleaned out their area, because I talked to Art the other day. They've cleaned out all the way to our area. When the bottleneck happened, the gentleman whose mother owns the kennels over on Central Avenue, he called me over. We walked the whole creek. When it gets to that part where they built a bridge over the creek, it's all bottlenecked there. That's where the jam started at. Once you got into St. James, there was not that much water in their whole ditch area through the whole system, because remember we walked that, you and I, last year? When we walked all through St. James through the other creeks, the ditches, it was the bridge on a piece of property that's over it. I hate to say, I think it's Stanley's property over there off of Silica, but somebody built a bridge over the creek. They narrowed in the structure, and there's a lot of jams over in that area there. That's where it was bottlenecked up. Because when we walked it on his property, and it had already receded, when we walked to there, it was still jammed up, but it could get the flow through there by that time. I can take you over there and show it to you, but the bad thing is that now we're in the county's thing, so we have to wait for the county to do something. And they said they're not doing anything until 2013, Keith said.
The only bridge I know of that's not a county road is the bridge at the truck.
Maybe that's where it is, a truck park over there?
Yes.
I didn't know whose property it was over there. We just walked by and I saw where it was at. That's where it's all backed up at.
Well, that's also where the ditch that comes in from the south there merges in with this 10 Mile Creek and Kyle Farms there.
Right.
And I know that is probably the biggest concern area that we have, but...
Well, I mean, it's not, like I say, it's not just the 10 Mile, it's all the other creeks and stuff that flow into it. I mean, we all know what gets built up. I mean, whether it's allowed or wasn't allowed, the floodplains, I mean, that's where we live. I mean, we live in a black swamp.
Yes.
200 years ago, this was all water. And, through time, I mean, things have changed, but every time something gets filled in, whether it's allowed or not, the water's got to go somewhere. It's going to find its way. Whether it's over in, Central there by Kyle's, by Slight Dival, that, that person, again, I don't know if that was, anyways, but that's quite an area that's been filled in.
Yeah.
But the water's gotta go somewhere, and then you know that there's, St. Procman Mitchell, or her in, Central that got lifted up. And every time somebody does it, every time somebody builds, we don't think about, well, it's just one home, and it's just one of this. Well, it just keeps pushing that water, and it can't get through.
Yeah. These people put ponds in, which elevates their property and keeps pushing it downstream or upstream, and
It's
it's not...
everything, and, in
Yeah.
our council meeting last night, I had foreign was coming down here and stuff like that, and I told them, when we do our spring newsletter or whatever, that we need to make sure we keep our area clean too, that we inform residents not to throw, when we have a limb pickup and all that kind of stuff. I mean, some people just have a bad habit.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta start somewhere in our own backyard, this is literally speaking, keep it clean so our stuff doesn't flow down into Richfield Township, Savina Township, well, I just up in Savina, their problem. Well, it just got excessive this year, and again, I'm just responding to, residents calling me up.
Well, we appreciate the information and the cooperation, and we certainly will, work with you in any way. Unfortunately, it's a very...
Other entities, if we all get together, I don't know, as far as the state or whatever, money's out there, if you get, Bolton and Metamora and Amboy and all of us together, say, we got an issue with the 10 mile.
Yeah.
It's not just Sylvania or Sylvania Township, it's not just Metamora. It's 6 or 7 or 8 of us that we have an issue, and we really look at that.
And I know the county has looked at draining into the quarries, because those are pretty low, and if you could diffuse some of the water there for a temporary basis or something,
That's
but...
the EPA won't allow it.
No?
No. It's a groundwater issue there.
Yeah, because the 10 mile runs parallel right to the east side of it there from Savannah to the Brent Road.
Yeah.
Get groundwater and roads run off the roads, and they won't allow this is at the bottom of the quarry.
Yeah.
I know talk is cheap, Ken, but I know Mr. Gherkin had called twice. It's definitely on their radar to try to develop some plan, put something together out here, because in fact, I was out with him the first flood, showed him around a little bit, and...
Well, again, I appreciate the time coming here. Again, if we can be any help, we're at the western edge of the 10 mile, and, we're glad to come down and sit with whomever, and read our case again, to somehow they see what's going on. Because we got to wait another year, and that's going to be a lot of flooding.
I know, and the county guy that spoke at our meeting a couple weeks ago said that, it's reached the 100-year flood like 5 times in the last, 5 or 6 years. So I asked him, well, could you do anything about that? And he said, no, it's statistically speaking that this was the 100-year flood mark, even though it's reached that quite a few times in the recent past. So it definitely is an issue that's on everybody's radar.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item is the zoning department, and Tim, I don't think we have anything.
Okay.
Then Public Works, and Greg has a discussion.
Good evening. I just want to bring your attention that it is time to renew the contract for the brush and leaf drop-off. This is for the township crews and our contractors. I recommend that we hold off another week or two. We're scheduled to open bids for the yard waste drop-off December 28th, and we could review our options between those,
Did we include any of that with the new bid process, or no, we just did residents waste drop-off?
for the one that I am opening December 28th.
Did we
That
just
will
do
include-
residents only, and we didn't add ours in
Both.
possibly?
No, ours is in there.
That's what I said, so we'll just wait.
Is
Yes.
there renewal, is there a deadline or a time frame where they can shut us off on renewing the contract? Did you look at any of the language in there?
No, there's not a deadline.
Okay,
However,
very good.
so I just want to bring your attention, we have options that will appear probably in another 10 days, 14 days.
The current contract would include the Christmas tree pickup and things, so we don't have to do anything before we start that, or do we need to make a move? Will be our first meeting in 2012.
Yeah, we need to make a move at the first meeting in
Okay.
2012.
Okay?
Yeah. So we'll have the bids ready, and we know our price for the renewal for 2012, so we can compare.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Next item is the fire department, and we have a monthly report and one resolution.
Good evening. Before you have November's monthly report, we'll start with page 2. As you can see, from November 2010 to November 2011, we have our fire runs are up significantly from last year. False alarm calls are up a little bit also, and our calls for service at the bottom of the page are up for a grand total of 125 for the month of November. That's from compared to 86 from last year. A lot of it has to do with the heating season starting, people starting up their wood burners and their gas and oil fuel furnaces. On page 3, we had a significant house fire at Centennial Terrace on November 10th. We did call in mutual aid companies for that, so while we were handling that fire, that individual unfortunately did not have a smoke detector, and actually the fire came in at 03:37 hours. He was lucky he was awakened in the middle of the night, and he did smell the smoke, was able to get out, but he did lose everything in that fire. Later on in the report, we'll see that we did do a return to visit in that subdivision to do a smoke detector check and installation and battery install. Page 4, you will see our EMS service calls by type. Pretty much the same as what we had, a little bit decrease from last year. Our cardiac related emergencies are down just a little bit. As we get into the snow shoveling season, you will see those spike a little bit. For those people that are getting out that shouldn't be shoveling snow, they'll start shoveling snow again. We are up for the total year so far at the bottom of the page, 3134. That's significantly about 334 incidents from last year at the same time. On page 5, our mutual aid incidents. We did request mutual aid from Springfield Township at a motor vehicle accident at McCord Regents Park. We also did a fill-in 25's fire station, that's 2933 West Central Avenue, Fort Toledo Fire Division, while they were having multiple fires on November 8th. We continue to participate in the mutual aid response, automatic aid response on I-475. That has worked out very well with sending an engine company from Springfield Township and one from Sylvania Township to take care of the injury accidents between the Michigan line all the way down to Airport Highway. So we share that common ground with them. Page 6, risk reduction. We did do a couple, 15 public safety events. We did a couple apparatus displays and some educational events that our fire crews have gone out to the schools, again, and taught the little ones, especially the grade schools and the nursery schools. Building project plans, Deputy Chief Freilich went through some additional building plans, 16 plan reviews in the month of November. He's up to about 133 at this time. Remember, we talked about our fee schedule. If you take 133 times that $100, that's about $13,300. So that's what we're looking at probably for the year just in that area for the plan reviews. Page 7, monthly training, Lucas County EMS continuing education. Again, in November, we didn't have any continuing education, so there was no overtime cost for that. We again do not have any cost in December this month, but we start back in January. Each paramedic will do a 4-hour training session for 9 months in 2012. Again, we did some live burn training at our tower as far as our training goes for the month of November. The temperatures came down a little bit, and we did some scenarios, and then we did live fire training in the burn tower itself. What we'd like to try to do maybe in the spring is do another Field the Heat Day that we can get the trustees and invite people from City Council to participate in a couple live burns and some search and rescues just to see what it's like to do some of the tasks that we do. We've done it in the past, and it's been very entertaining for you and informative, I hope. Public relations, we did do a revisit to the scene, as we call it, November 12th. That's back to the trailer park where we had that fire. We did install several smoke detectors and did some battery checks in there. We feel that by getting back into these areas right after the fire happens or the weekend after, it's still on everybody's mind. We get in there, and people that don't have smoke detectors, we put them in for free of charge. And then we also check and change the batteries if the smoke detectors aren't operating. Page 8, there's a letter from Ursula Academy. They contacted us and asked us if we would donate a breakfast with the firefighters. And they could give off for their silent auction to gain some money for their charitable organization, so we decided to do that. And then on the last page, page 9, we just have a letter of appreciation for two people that we had a run on on their son. Any questions on that part of it?
I think you guys are doing a great public relations piece, and I know it's a small piece of your responsibilities, but I think you're doing great. The Shop with a Hero thing, I know our police department was very active, and I know you left our last meeting and went on it, and so it's good to see that some of our other employees are getting press as well. So, thank you, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I mentioned last month, I know Mike wasn't here, but Mike, nice work with Waterford Bank in getting through that construction issue they had. They called and thanked us, which means thank you. So, thank you very much.
I have one other item on the agenda, a resolution to appoint two members to the Volunteer Fire Dependency Board. We did that last year. It's a board that basically is for a injury and/or death through the Volunteer Firefighters Dependency Fund. Last year, Mrs. Contrada and Mr. Haddad were the two people that were voted onto that board. So if we could have a resolution to appoint two people to that board, I would appreciate it. I'd offer resolution, let me find it here, excuse me. I offer resolution 11-208 to appoint members of the Volunteer Firemen's Dependency Board.
Do we...
On the resolution 11-208, we need a second, we can discuss it.
You'll second that?
Okay.
I guess during the board appointments, this one slipped by me.
Sorry.
Well, actually, this appointment does not have to be completed till January 31st of 2012.
Okay.
So if you'd like to table it and think about it, I'm sure you're the boss, not me.
Hey, Chief, is there anybody from the private sector that you think would be...
Or do you like the trustees being on there, or how do you want to handle it?
I like having the trustees on it, but I can look into it and see if we could, I'll check the Ohio Revised Code and see if we can appoint somebody from the private
Just a
sector.
thought, sometimes it's good to have a mix between government and private, that's just my only thought.
Sure.
How many people are on the board, and could you just explain a little bit?
Well, actually, there's, I believe this is out throughout the whole state of Ohio. It's all the volunteer and part-paid volunteer companies in the state of Ohio that are a member into this board. And what it is, they collect money through, and Mr. Simcoe has to go ahead and certify the amount of value of the residential homes in this area, which is dependent upon how much we go ahead and give to the board itself. And then this money goes into a pool, and it's used for injuries to firefighters, volunteer or part-time firefighters that are injured in the line of duty or killed or dismembered. And that's what this is about. And then the board meets, sets the rules for this, and then takes care of the dismemberment of the actual funds to it. So it's not just the two of you that would be on the board, it'd be everyone in Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay. And two trustees?
Yes, sir.
Well,
Or two people, sir.
I wouldn't mind being on the board.
That's good for you.
I'm indifferent.
I'll do it. You got two of us if you want us both.
Okay.
So we have a motion, and it's been seconded, and the people that would be on the board, a part of the resolution would be, John Genowine and Kevin Haddad have agreed to do it. So we need to have a vote on it. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Okay, one last thing, just to let you be...
That was for one last thing.
I'm sorry. One last thing. One last thing is we did sell the TDA, the old practice TDA that we had for $5,026. We had it for 3 years. We practiced with it. We paid about $10,000 for it, so we did didn't really owe us anything when we got rid of it. The mini pumper is closing out tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. We hope to get around 10,000 for it. The bidding right now is at $8,600. So we're going to be close on that, too. That's all I got now.
So get out there and ghost bid it up.
There you go.
Then we can get started. Again.
One thing I might add before I call the police up is that last meeting when the chief presented his fee schedules, we wanted it on the website. It's up there, and I want to compliment all the departments, especially the fire. If you go to the website, Mike has some nice articles. In fact, on the Sylvania, our town website, he has nice articles. So things are working out pretty good with the new website.
Yes.
Hey, Chief, if we're just, help me out here, when they're bidding on it, when it's online, the equipment, you put a reserve on that, or is this absolute?
We have a reserve on it.
So we need 10, you're going to be happy with 10?
We already met the reserve.
We've already met the reserve. Okay.
We would be happy with 10, we've already met our reserve. So it is going.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
But if you like it,
Won't fit in my garage.
You need something out your way?
no, we're good.
Next item is the police department with their monthly report. Good evening. You have before you the November 2011 monthly report. I'll start with page 2. Calls. The police department in November had 1,455 calls, fire department 351, and 1,062 came into 9/11. That's pretty consistent with the earlier months. Moving to page 3, as I said, the police calls for service were 1,455, and you can see on the sheet that we're actually down a little bit on our calls for service. Now, one distinction I want to make is calls for service and calls for service that actually result in police reports are something altogether different, because we are up in our police reports, and I'll get into that a little bit here. Citations, same page. You can see that we wrote 153 citations for November. Crash reports, we had 71 property crash reports. Kind of strangely enough, year-to-date, we're up 100 in property crash reports, but we're down 20 or 34 in injury accident reports. So if you had to pick, I'd rather be down in the injury accidents than the property accidents. I don't have an explanation for that. That's just kind of a quirk or what. And thank goodness, no fatals. On the same page, I'm not going to read all the figures for the different crimes. We're up in some. We're mostly even in quite a number of them. But the one of note is burglaries. We're way up in burglaries, and we're getting kicked real bad right now. And we've made a lot of arrests, and I'll cover that in some of the highlight of the detective cases. But a large part of that, of course, some of it's the economy, but my understanding is that a large part of it is we have a lot of heroin out here being distributed. In fact, we made an arrest just as a result of a sting operation just last Friday in which we got one guy. But my understanding is that Oxycontin was the drug of choice before, and as doctors have clamped down on that because of abuse and such, heroin has taken its place again. And the heroin also proves to be cheaper. You can get that on the street cheaper than you can get the Oxycontin. So I know in at least 2 of the cases with the burglaries, and we've arrested 6 different suspects over the past month and a half on different sets of burglaries. One was a pair of them in the 3230 Centennial, the trailer park out there, hit 7 different trailers. We've had some up north along Meriwether and in that area, all the way up north part of Whiteford on Barton, just south of the Michigan line. But again, our burglaries are up, and I think it's as much due to the heroin addicts out here as there is anything else. Wow. Kind of sad. Like I said, most of the other stuff we're pretty even. We are up considerably in our our thefts, and just in the totals. We've generated 2,396 reports through November 30th thus far. Page 4 to 7, just to highlight, you have each of the officers in community affairs, the 3, to submit their own report. We had their graduations, Hillview, Whiteford, and Central, and Stranahan will be taught in the next semester here. Our community affairs officers continue to work with Sylvania City PD at the high schools. As you know, neither one of the high schools, unfortunately, is ours anymore, but we do work with them as far as presentations, that ALICE program that I had told you before, and just general lockdown procedures, because that's a whole different set of thinking now, and it's a radical change from the way they were trained before. So we spent a lot of time in the schools doing that. I mentioned the speed trailer again before, so I just will tell you that that speed trailer that you approved us to purchase back a couple months ago is coming in real handy. We seem to get lots of requests for it, and I would invite, I know you guys get phone calls and emails and such too, so you can do one of two things. If you get those, you can either just give me a call community affairs, refer them to us, or you can call us yourself or whatever, and we'll get a speed trailer out there. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks because we get a lot of requests and such, but our approach is twofold in dealing with those things, and we get lots of complaints in our neighborhoods about speeding and such, and rightfully so, with the danger to the kids and everything else. And our two-pronged approach is we get the speed trailer out there. Sometimes we'll do a survey if we need to, or we'll just get it out there as a deterrent. And the other thing we do is I'll put a memo out to the sergeants in the road patrol that we need to hit an area in particular for the next couple of weeks at least, and they actually submit reports to me to show, it gives me documentation to show that we've been out there and how many tickets we've written and such. Of course, that's all based on calls for service and demand for calls for service, because if we're really busy running call to call, obviously we may not get out there sometimes. So, and then as far as community affairs, as you had mentioned, and I appreciate your commending it, we've been involved in distribution of the Thanksgiving baskets in November through Sylvania Area Family Services. Of course, we'll cover in December's report, but we had just Shop with the Heroes and Shop with a Cop. One was Myers, one was Walmart, and Sylvania Area Family Services really provides a big need to the community. Without them, some of this stuff wouldn't be possible, so it's really good to work with them on that. Page 8, DEA Task Force, the officer who I will leave unnamed submitted his report, and we have $61,333 in U.S. currency that was seized in November. Eventually, we'll get about 10 to 11% of that based upon our participation in the task force. November 15th, and I won't spend much time on this, but we talked about it before, BW3s again, in our saturated patrol of that. Once again, it was pretty productive. We ended up with several on-view and warrant arrests, and we seized a good amount of marijuana, some cocaine, and actually a loaded handgun. We identified more gang members from Toledo representing actually rival factions. So, our concern, I don't want to alarm anybody, but our concern with continuing to hit that is that we don't end up with some kind of a war in there between gang members and somebody gets caught in the crossfire. So we will continue to monitor that very closely. Detective case highlights, and this is what I referred to before. You can see on page 9 the burglaries of 4402 Merriweather, 4604 Lasky. We identified a suspect, I should say the detectives did, and that suspect was subsequently arrested. Barton Place, once again, and it gives a little more detail in your description there, but through the fingerprints found at the scene, those were processed. We were able to match them up to a suspect who subsequently admitted to that burglary. Centennial Manor, I said we had 7 burglaries in there. We were able to make ID suspects, 2 suspects in that deal, and make arrests in that. So, the Detective Bureau is doing an excellent job because sometimes burglaries aren't that quickly or easily solved. So I was real proud that we made that many arrests, but unfortunately, I know actually they just ID'd 2 more, their brothers, involved in some burglaries down to the south, and it's just a matter, they've got the one, they're still looking for the other one. So, and Mom's actually involved in that one too, believe it or not. She's the fence for him. So, anyway, on page 11, detective cases assigned. You can see the month of November, we assigned 85 cases. 38 of those were resolved or cleared in November, which means 47 remain active. We had another 33 cases that were cleared from previous month's cases for a total clearance of 71 cases. Page 12, you'll see our financial report, so to speak, with deposits made / revenue generated or whatever. You can see what we're doing on a monthly basis through that DEA task force. That's proven to be very good, and then what we receive from Sylvania Court and such. And page 14, this is something we added. That shouldn't say 228 employees, because obviously we don't have 228 employees, but it's 228, I guess you would call them separate courses that resulted in the 3,878 hours of training for the police department overall in November. And then the only other thing, I really won't get into the report of the, I just don't think it's a good idea in a public setting that are a member of our FBI Fugitive Task Force, but I did receive a real nice email, and it shows the kind of stuff that I know the fire department and the road department too generally try to do too, and I don't believe you have that, but basically it's an email that talks about Sergeant Judge, one of our afternoon sergeants, and actually there was some vandalism and criminal damaging to like streetlights and such in a neighborhood, and very quickly it just talks about this woman that actually works with police officers on a daily basis. I guess she's in the law enforcement program up in eastern Michigan. She's the assistant director. And so they're a family that has a great deal of respect for police departments and police officers in general anyway. But what Sergeant Judge did was he visited the house for follow-up on some information and completing a report and getting the information he needed for the investigation. But then he actually returned to the house, and because her son, who was real young, was real interested in a police officer, and was really awed by him, in her words. And he just took him like a little badge, a junior police badge, and what else, stickers and such. And I guess he was really thrilled with it. So she wrote a real nice email in response that most police departments don't go to those lengths or whatever. And like I said it before. We're lucky out here to have a community that supports us as much as it does, and so we have the luxury to spend a little more time, so it's kind of a reciprocal deal. We do that, and gosh, the community really supports us, and we appreciate it. With that, do you have any questions?
I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
As you know, we're members of SCAT, and Deb's going to be coming up for funding for next year, Deb Cheney. The list of tendencies that we have with heroin, do you forward that information to her so she can get that out to the public to keep an eye out? I know she sends emails out to a lot of the members in the township, members out of SCAT or people that have an interest, but are we tying in some of your inside knowledge that she can utilize to get the word out, not just here tonight, but to everybody?
We talk, but quite frankly, I got my information directly from the detectives, and they're so busy running down cases that they really don't have contact with SCAT. So to answer your question, probably not as much as we could or should.
But it might be something Deb could listen every month and
Yes.
say, okay, we have a tendency of heroin.
Yes.
And she can send an email out to the team, and she can listen. What I'm suggesting is maybe she ought to be listening to these, because this does pertain to SCAT.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we'll make sure that gets done.
Our community affairs person brings a lot of that to the board meeting, because I'm on the board.
Oh, okay.
From the police department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, we'll continue,
Okay,
we'll make
thanks.
sure that continues.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay,
The only
thank
other
you.
thing I got for you is that the speed sign to go on Quarry Road soon, over between Central and Sylvania Avenue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people speeding through there, and they're passing me, and there's deer running like crazy, so somebody's gonna get hit by a deer soon, and then they're gonna cry to us that, it's a 35 miles an hour zone, these guys are going 45 and 50 down that road. I've had 3 complaints from residents over there.
Okay, that whole stretch or
Yeah.
with the south, okay.
That
Okay.
stretch, going east and, north and south on that. stretch
Okay,
there.
all the way
Yeah.
between Central and,
Plus,
Sylvania.
parts of it as we get towards the northern part is Toledo, so
Right.
on the, east side of the road, so.
Okay, all
It's in
right.
our area, just, if we can get it over there sometime.
Yep, sure
Okay.
will.
Thanks, Chief. That's
Okay,
all.
thanks.
Next item on the agenda is the administrator, and what I have first is an application for liquor permit transfer. This is basically, it's a Speedway at 6500 Central Avenue, it's a change in ownership and a name change. I have letters from the police and fire department, both of them have no problems with the liquor permit transfer. Once again, since we're not objecting to it, there's nothing we need to do. My next five resolutions are appointments, and you can take them one at a time, or however the board would like to do it. It's Resolution 11212 is the appointment of an individual to the SAJAR board.
So I have a resolution to 11-212 to appoint an individual to the SAJAR board.
Who's the individual?
Mike Bader.
Reappoint him?
Yep.
I'll second that.
Call the roll, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
My next resolution is 213, appointment individual to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll make a resolution 11-213, appointment individual to the Board of Zoning Appeals, Dan Bolin.
I'll second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
My next resolution, 214, is appointment of an alternate to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Make a motion 11-214, the alternate of zoning appeals, Bob Sabo.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Number 215, appointment of an individual to the Zoning Commission.
I'd like to offer 11-215 to appoint Tom Creaky.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And then resolution 216 is appointment of an alternate to the Zoning Commission.
I'd like to make a resolution 11-216, an alternate being Bob Sabo.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
My last resolution is the 11217. As you remember, I talked to you last meeting that we need to set the time and dates for meetings for next year, and at this point, what we'd like to do is just set the first meeting date at January 4th, which is a Wednesday, which would be our I'll call it the organization meeting, where we will set the dates for the year, and
Why aren't we meeting on the Tuesday night, just curiosity wise?
well, as I mentioned last time, Monday's the holiday,
Yeah?
and I figure be the start of the year that we might need a day.
There used to be hungover, is that what you're trying to say?
Well, it said that last time. But that will give us a day to do the agenda, if there's any changes.
It's up to them, guys, I don't care. Just teasing you, go ahead.
I think that's a good
That's
move.
fair, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll make the meeting at
4
4
PM.
PM on Wednesday, January 4th, and at
Yes.
that meeting, we can then make the meetings for the year and
Yes.
the organization of the trustees and so forth.
Offer resolution 11-217, setting the date for the first meeting of 2012 for January 4th at 4 PM.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the fiscal officer, and Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, we just have three resolutions. Resolution 11-209, and this is to reduce appropriations in various accounts. It's getting up there. They're there. To be reducing appropriations, various accounts.
I'll offer resolution 11-209, reduction of appropriations to the listed accounts.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
You got any
I
questions?
got one
or-
thing. We could use the $44,000 in the road department to clean up the ditch before the flood. Just wanted to make that comment. Go ahead.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Next, we have resolution number 11-210, and it's transfer of appropriations. There is an attachment.
Spending all the money we just saved.
No, not all of it.
I'll offer resolution 11-210, transfer appropriations.
Second.
Yes. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And lastly is a transfer of funds, and it's resolution number, can't see it. It's not on.
211.
211. And it's transfer of funds and has to do with police grant funds.
I'll offer resolution 11-211, transfer of police grant funds.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And that is all I have.
Okay. Open discussion on hearing of the public on non-agenda items. Anyone sign in?
One person.
Mr. Hayes.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay.
Mike, hey, John, I'm sorry. Mr. Lever came early. He meant to sign into that.
Okay.
Mike wanted to speak a minute, I guess.
Mr. Lieber?
Not Mr.
I'm here tonight representing the Sister City Commission, which is operated under Sylvania Township, CIC, and City of Sylvania. First I'll mention that we are changing the way we're operating right now. We have for the last few years, we haven't had much of a Sister City Commission, because Woodstock sort of hasn't had anyone. So that's all changed now. And we are moving we're going to operate more as a sister city. We're moving the Fall Festival to a committee now, and they'll report back to us at our meeting. So they'll take our time away now. We can spend more time to get more organizations get involved with Woodstock, Ontario, along with the township. I bring greetings from the Woodstock Mayor, His Worship Pat Sobieski, and welcome everybody to Woodstock next year for their holiday parade, which is the weekend before our Thanksgiving. Now this year, we were up there as a group, and there was 3 police cars from this area, 2 from the city and 1 from the township. Along with myself and the mayor's secretary. I'm losing my voice. When the officers got up there, including the township officer, they took them out to lunch. The city paid for it. That evening, after the parade, the city took everybody out to dinner, and they paid for that also. Then the following morning, for breakfast, they had us all over to one of the motor inns, and they had a buffet breakfast they covered. They signed their 2 or 3 of the councilmen to spend time with us, make sure we had everything that we needed, and worked with us all the way through the weekend. It was fantastic. The mayor was all for us, and he wants the EMS, that they can come up next year, the fire department, and again, the police officers, again, to be in their holiday parade. They have been coming down there for our fall festival for quite a few years now. And I think they visit the EMS and also the fire department when they were down here. That's it. Any questions about Sister City or?
What role does CIC play in Sister City? I know it's one of the 3.
Through the past years, they supply us with some money to give us to operate.
How much?
I honestly don't know. I'd have to find out if I can get back with you.
You know, I would like to see them take the lead on this kind of stuff and kind of leave the city and the township out of it. I know the city's very active in it, but, you know, I think it would fall right perfect underneath their umbrella. But, you know, we'll work with our safety forces and see what we've got. I was even unaware that we sent up a police cruiser But certainly we support getting the word out of what a great community Sylvania is, whether it's city or township, and we appreciate you coming here tonight.
Okay, so is that, I'm understanding you don't want to support them anymore and...
No, I didn't say anything like that. What are you asking for us here tonight, money?
I'm not asking for any money.
Okay, well, that's what I said. Thanks for
Later on
coming.
into the year, maybe we
Yeah.
might need some funds to help to operate, but not tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
With that, I would like to offer a motion to go into executive session at 7:50.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Oh, to discuss contract negotiations for the fire department, I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad? Yes. Mr. Genowine?
Yes.